Good morning, y'all. How you doing? It's Kathy. Good to see you this morning. We're going to be reading, this is the Cowgirl Posse Bible study. We're going to be reading chapter 45 in Genesis. So I'm going to be reading from my Bible this morning because I didn't bring my computer out here in the shed. So let me take off my hat because I forgot to do that earlier this morning when I was doing a different program. We're going to be reading about Joseph finally revealing his identity to his brothers. Remember, he's been deceiving them really by continuing to pretend like he's someone else so that they wouldn't recognize him, because they had thrown him in a cistern and then sold him to slavery. And then he rose up and became right next to the Pharaoh as far as authority, and is in charge of everything since the famine has come into the land, all because he was able to interpret a dream, one of those supernatural things that we don't like to think about. We have dreamers in our midst right now, y'all. We have visionaries who dream dreams, and God has given them dreams. And some of them might be your pastor, giving them dreams and causing them to know what's going to happen in these last days. So I'm not going to talk about all that. I'm just going to read chapter 45, but just think about that. There are people walking among you who can have dreams and knows what's going to happen, who can sense things in the spirit. Be praying for that. That's called the gift of prophecy. Actually, if you pray for the gift of prophecy, you'll start having those kinds of spiritual awakenings, because we all have the same Holy Spirit living inside of us. So here we are, reading chapter 45. Joseph makes himself known. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all of his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence." So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers, and he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come close to me." When they had done so, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, the one who you sold into Egypt." And, hold on. "And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been a famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will not be plowing or reaping, and God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God." Isn't that quite an awareness, a revelation? You know, have you ever been sent into a place and you cannot figure out why God let you go there? I know it's happened to me. Into a place that was not good for me, that caused me sorrow and pain and hardship and physical pain and mental pain and all the things. But because God had a plan for that place and for those people, He allowed it. He put you there. And boy, that's hard to accept sometimes. But it happens today in real life. So here we go. So then it was not you that sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household and ruler of all of Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, 'This is what your son Joseph says. God has made me lord of all of Egypt. Come down to me. Don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me." Goshen. I remembered the word from reading it before. Sometimes it's hard to pronounce these things, but maybe you remember them from a time you read before. Goshen. "And be near me. You, your children and grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin. that it is really I who am speaking to you. Tell my father about all the honor accorded me in Egypt and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly." Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept. And Benjamin embraced him, weeping. And he kissed him and all the brothers and wept over them. Afterward, the brothers talked with him. When the news reached Pharaoh's palace and that Joseph's brothers had come, Pharaoh and all of his officials were pleased. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, do this, load your animals and return to the land of Canaan and bring your father and your families back to me. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you can enjoy the fat of the land." You are also directed to tell them, "Do this, take some carts from Egypt for your children and your wives, and get your father and come. Never mind about your belongings, because the best of all of Egypt will be yours." So the sons of Israel did this. Joseph gave them carts as Pharaoh had commanded, and he also gave them provisions for their journey. To each of them he gave new clothing, but to Benjamin he gave 300 shekels of silver and 5 sets of clothes. And this is what he sent to his father: 10 donkeys loaded with the best things of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other provisions for his journey. Then he sent his brothers away, and as they were leaving, he said to them, "Don't quarrel on the way." So they went up out of Egypt and came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. They told him, "Joseph is still alive. In fact, he is ruler of all of Egypt." Jacob was stunned. He did not believe them, but when they told him everything Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the carts Joseph had sent to carry him back, the spirit of their father Jacob revived, and Israel said, "I'm convinced my son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." So the last time I read the scriptures, y'all, I kept getting Joseph and Jacob's name interchanged. I do that sometimes, sorry. But a lot of it is also because, they're called one name and then God changes their name. For example, let's see, when Jacob, the father's name was Jacob originally, and God changed his name to Israel. So they switch his name back and forth in the chapter sometimes. So don't let that confuse you, although it is a little confusing sometimes. Anyway, so now we've learned that finally the deceit is over with. Because it's hard for me to take all this deceit in the Bible. I told y'all I have a hard time reading the Old Testament sometimes because of all of the sin and all of the fighting, and it's hard to, and the deceitfulness, but that's just to show us that we come from a place where there's so much sin around us, and in the lives of each individual there is sin, there is deceitfulness, and we have to face it, overcome it, conquer it. And now we've learned that Joseph has revealed to them that he is their brother, and now he's sending for his father Israel, Jacob, and Benjamin has realized that this is his brother, and now they're all going to come back to the land of Egypt. And that's what happened in chapter 45. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you to read chapter 46 on the next live video. Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.